Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Hello Dave with Down to Earth Astronomy. We're going to take a look at what's been going on in both Elite and in Star Citizen in the last week, and we're going to be looking forward to see what's going to be happening in the future as well. So first I want to take you along for the ride for this absolute roller coaster ride that has been Elite Dangerous last week. It definitely shows the frontiers in the business of making roller coaster simulators. But anyway, for me the last week started relatively positive, looking forward to a really good week, hopefully, in Elite. Frontiers really lined things up. I mean, they badly needed a string of good PR stories to tell here. Trust in Frontiers at an all-time low. The community is shrinking by the day. If the Steam charts are anything to go by, the active number of players is down to half of what it was before Odyssey. I don't know if those are reliable, but those put up everything in place for a potentially really good week. We had Update 5, we had the developer live stream that they have been talking about for weeks, and we had some kind of looking forward information dump on what's going to be the future of Odyssey. And that picture began to degrade quite a bit already on Monday. Every Monday, Frontiers posts this calendar on the forum where you can see what is the events that's going to happen in the coming week. But there was a surprising lack of developer live stream, the big developer live stream that they've been talking about for weeks. But what was there instead was there was a developer update forum post on the list. And everybody was quite confused about that at the beginning. Is this a mistake? Or has the developers live stream been cancelled? What's going on here? Everybody was asking questions left and right. And so Frontier had these 3 golden opportunities to do something. And now they've taken one of them and they just decided not to use it at all. Now they're down to 2. So they removed that developer live stream. It did get confirmed relatively quickly that yes, the developer live stream was cancelled, but we never really got a good explanation as to why. Yeah, that made me quite disappointed because I really thought that was such a cool thing and I was really looking forward to it, but that was just not to happen. But, well, I guess at the end of the day, as long as the information is delivered to us, if it's in a forum post, sure, fair, why not? Okay. Tuesday comes along and they have the usual Super Cruise News live stream, and of course they are asked about it, and what they say is they decided to move it to a forum post on Wednesday instead of doing a developer live stream on Thursday, because they wanted to post that information they would want to present in the live stream as a forum post so they could collect additional questions they would be able to reply to and the following day on the live stream, which, to be honest, is quite a good idea. Post the information on day one or one day and then have a follow-up live stream the next day where you answer questions that people have been asking, things that maybe weren't clear. We got also in the Super Cruise News, we got some quick preview of on the new outfitting UI that we're going to come in Update 5 at this point 2 days later, and some story works, those kind of things. There was quite a bit of good things in Update 5, I will admit. We're going to talk more about that one later. So eventually Wednesday came and it was time for this developer update, not live stream, but now forum post. Wow, that was a disappointment. Even that is an understatement. This was supposed to be the post where they would be looking forward and what is the future of Odyssey. 80% of that post, pretty much, was talking about Update 5. This is on Wednesday. Update 5 comes out on Thursday, the day after. So they're looking forward now one day. They're basically showing us a few screenshots of the lighting reworks that they're done. That's going to come the day after. What else did they put in there? They put in a top 5 list of some of the issues they're working on. This is a good idea. I like it. They commented on some of the things that people have posted on the issue tracker and said, where are we with working on these bugs? This is not a bad idea. I would like to see this section expand. Spend a little bit more time, explain a little bit more detail. What are you looking for? Where do we have any kind of guesstimates for timelines? The answers were brief, but they were there. This was okay. But this was quite interesting because I think this was also one of the first times that Frontier has publicly addressed the issue with the repeating patterns on planets. I did a video on it a while back, and as I guessed, this is not an easy fix. And the message for that was basically, yeah, it's broken, we know it's broken, and we have no idea how to fix it. So that's where they are with that. Some of the others they had, what do they call it? pathways has been identified or something like that for a solution, which I think means they might have a vague idea of where the problem is, but don't have a fix yet. But then finally, towards the end of the post, they get to the long roadmap. And I thought, okay, here we go. This is what we were looking for. This is where we get the information on what's going to happen with Odyssey in half a year. What's the scope? What are they planning to do? What are they planning to add? What are they planning to do? No. It could pretty much be boiled down to them saying, we have been doing a lot of bug fixing and stabilization and performance optimization, and this was way more than they planned to, and this has forced them to, what was the wording here? Investigate, review, and remeasure the future roadmap. And that might affect future releases. So the way I read this is that they're basically saying, yeah, this thing was way more broken than we have ever planned, so we have to, as I say, review their current roadmap. I think that is as close as you're going to get to them admitting, saying console launch is going to get delayed. I think, if you haven't read it, go to the forum, find Developer Update 1 on the news section, and read that. That is as close as you're ever going to get to them admitting that they're going to have to delay the console launch. I mentioned this, I think, in the first Hello Day after Odyssey comes out, when it was so broken, and I said, there is absolutely no way that they're going to be able to fix this and also make it ready for console with the timetable they have right now. And it seems they haven't admitted it 100%, but it's as close as I think we're going to get until they actually announce the actual delay of it, which they'll probably have to do in a month or two, I guess. But console launch is going to get delayed. And my best guess is, that's the questions everybody mind. When is it then going to come out? I think we're going to see a console launch of Odyssey in January or February next year. So that's my best guess. So at this point, the week has pretty much hit an all-time low for me. And I feel a lot of other guys will probably agree with me when I say that, personally, I don't care about Frontier. I care about Elite. But those two things, unfortunately, are so intertwined that you can't separate the two. If Frontier ever decide to sell Elite off to another publisher, sure. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. But I really wish that I could spend more time in these Hello Days, talking about some of the community stuff that's happening, talking about the in-game lore, but all of this stuff happening with Odyssey and what is going on with Frontier, I just feel like is so important right now that it has to be covered, and that's why I'm deciding to spend the time it takes to try and cover these things in a little bit more detail. But Thursday came, and it was time for Update 5. In Update 5, we got some UI changes for the outfitting, so the whole thing has been redesigned there. It is now much, much closer to where it were with Horizons, and there's been a few changes here and there, but overall it's a lot closer to Horizon than what it was at Odyssey launch. They changed some of the obvious annoyances that people had with the default sell, and there was no warning when you're trying to sell into your module. That has now been fixed, so you can now get a warning, and the default is now to store the module instead. Settlement types have been added to maps, so you can now go into the map and look at the Odyssey settlement. You can see what type of settlement it is, and it has little pluses behind it that indicates the size of it, so you can kind of see if you're heading to a smaller settlement or larger settlement. Is this an agricultural or tourist? So we don't know. So you no longer have to guesstimate it from the name, and we can actually just see it there in the system map, which is super nice addition there. They also added support for AMD Fidelity FX CAS, and this is a upscaling method where you can, if you do subsample, you can upscale. And the idea with this was kind of you can downscale the game to a lower resolution and then upscale to the resolution you want to play in. I did some testing, I did my video on it. For me, it seems to do a tremendous amount, and I know for other people it have done nothing, and I've actually seen some cases where people report them having worse frame rate when they use it. So it seems to be very different. For me, I got great results of it. I think it's nice that it's there. Ideally, of course, I would like us to be able to play the game at their native resolutions, and it's just actually performing. But at this point, if this is what it takes, then I'll take it. Overall, I think Update 5 was great. That is some cool stuff, and it fixed some bugs, and the UI is better. So I think overall, Update 5 was a positive change, and Frontiers have a pretty good track record with the actual content of their updates. It's still just sometimes the communication seems to go quite haywire and sideways at the same time. So what is next? Well, I don't know. There was no useful information about the future of Odyssey in the developer update, and I haven't heard anything. We don't have any roadmaps, we don't have any timetable or schedules or anything. about what's going to happen now. We know there's going to be a console launch at some point. We know that it's very likely to be delayed. We don't know to when, but I guess we will have to wait and see. Let's move over and let's see what's happening over in the universe of Star Citizen. Of course, update 3.14 is moving ever closer, and if you haven't kept yourself updated with what's happening with that, 3.14 is, of course, the main thing is the rework of Crusader and adding of volumetric clouds to gas giants, so we can now actually fly into the clouds of gas giants. And of course, to give us something to look at there, they're adding the Horizon landing zone there, which is of like a floating city in the upper layers of a gas giant. It's going to be super cool. Seen some screenshots. It looks amazing. But with it also comes a rework of combat. A lot of the small, fast fighters are receiving a nerf of their maneuverability. And it seems like overall what the CIG is trying to do is they're trying to slow down combat a little bit. It can kind of get it. It feels a little bit like combat is too dominated by the small, light, nimble fighters that can just run circles around the big ships for days. So even if you have a big, honking like combat military platform like a Hammerhead, you can just sit in a small ship and run circles around it, since you can traverse around the ship faster than the turrets can track. So it kind of means that combat is being a little bit too dominated maybe by small lighter ships, and I think that's why they're trying to slow down the combat pace of the game a little bit to make big, heavier ships a little bit more dominant, or at least make them feel a little bit more dangerous than they do at this point. It's expecting that the update is going to launch sometimes in the middle of July, so it shouldn't be too far away, probably another week or two. There's also been a number of quite interesting videos posted over on the official Star Citizen YouTube channel. One of them was Chris Roberts sitting down with his wife, and they were talking about the future of Star Citizen and looking forward to 3.15, what's going to come there. They talked about some of the challenges they faced with the new cloud tech, what kind of difficulties they had with that, and how they managed to overcome that. And then they talked a lot about 3.15, of course, which is coming here after 3.14, so that's expected to come in like 3 months or something like that. And they were talking a lot about the new Meidcal gameplay, which is the big feature in that update, where you're going to be able to both have like individual limb damage. We're going to talk about more about that later, but also the death of a spaceman. The idea that your character can die. It doesn't mean that your character is going to be gone. Everything you've done work for is just removed. It just means that the character you're playing is going to be dead, like for good. And all your assets, all your ships, all your equipment will then be passed on to your next of kin. Basically meaning you can make a new character and they just get all the money and you get all the whatever stuff you have if you die. But of course, they're also going to make, with the gameplay, it's going to make death a much less frequent occurrence in the game. Right now, you can pretty much die from anything, anytime, so that wouldn't work in the current state of the game. But that is something that's going to come in the future. And again, we're going to talk about Meidcal gameplay here in a second. Of course, also 3.15 is where we get server meshing. Now, server meshing is quite interesting because right now the way it is, when you log into one server, and that one server is responsible for handling the whole solar system at once. That means if you have someone in Port Olysa and you have someone in New Babbage, it's all the same server. And that same server has to take care of NPCs, they have to take care of everything that happens in that same zone. So if you have a bunch of people in your end of the solar system, can cause performance for you in your end of the solar system to degrade. Because the servers, of course, handling the full system. This is also why the NPCs in Star Citizen is so dumb as they are, just standing on chairs and not really doing a whole lot, because it is the servers diverting power away from handling NPCs over to handling player activities. So when the servers are busy, the server don't want to spend a lot of time making the NPCs look good. It would rather try to reserve that performance for the players so they have a better playing experience. But of course, with server meshing now, it means that you can have a server handling microtech and then a server handling some other areas. And as you move around the system, you are then transferred between these different servers. I'm expecting that's going to cause a significant amount of networking issues, probably at the first iteration, but hopefully that's something that will get ironed out. But that's the idea, and hopefully that's going to mean you can have more server power devoted to a specific region if that's needed, and you don't have to have the whole system run by one server at a time. So that's going to be nice to see. And there was also something that I actually didn't know, because his wife asked so what he was sitting and coding at night, because apparently Chris Robert also writes code himself. I thought he was in full-on business management mode, much like we see with Brave. I don't think Braben is down writing any code anymore, but no, he's still sitting, and he explained how he's working on the basically working on like some more advanced hitboxes. So if you have a big bulky armor on, then that armor will actually now be probably part of your hitbox. So if you have a tiny and more skinny armor on, then that will be part of your hitbox. And also to make sure stuff like if you have like a cape on a cloth will interact correctly with the environment around it. That's those kind of things that he's apparently sitting working on late at night, which I think is super cool. I like that even though you're the CEO and the tail of the company, that you're that you don't mind sitting down and write some code yourself. Now, they also posted a video called Calling All Devs. This is, I think, a recurring video they do from time to time, where, again, they take questions from the community and then they sit down like an interview style and with a developer and ask, so people have been asking about this, how does it work? And in this case, they asked one of the developers, how does this new medical game play? How does it work? And then he spent half an hour going into minute details about how different limbs have hit points and how you have global hit points, what determines kind of like, he went into the whole system of how it is. And then he talked, of course, about how is that going to change when we get 3.15 out. And it's actually quite an interesting system because that explains how the whole medical gameplay is going to work. So the idea is that each of your limbs is going to have individual hit points, and you're of course going to have a global hit point. And as you take damage, your limbs will take damage depending on where you get hit. And you can of course heal those hit points back up with a med pen, so basically like a field medical kit. But eventually, as you go through many of these taking damage, you take your right arm, you take damage, you heal it up, you take damage, you heal it up. If you take a lot of damage in your right arm, you're going to get a trauma. And they're going to have different levels of trauma you can get in the different limbs. And depending on what limb it is, it's going to affect your character differently. So it could be if you have a leg trauma, then maybe you can't run as fast, or you're going to be having a harder time strafing, I don't know, from side to side, I don't know, something like that. Or if you take an arm trauma, you're going to have more weapon sway. And eventually, if you have a severe enough trauma, you'll completely break your arm, for instance, you can't use it anymore, making it very difficult to climb a ladder with only one arm. So if you have a ship that requires you to go up a ladder, well, that can be quite difficult if you have a broken arm. Similarly, climbing a ladder with a broken leg, I could also imagine that being quite difficult and require quite a bit of upper body strength to do so. So all that's going to come. And what it means, of course, is that if you now die in the sense that we do now, of course, you will just become unconscious. And you have the option to just go and say, snap out of it, and then you're basically going to have your character die, and you're going to respawn in a bed or in a hospital or something like that. But you can also wait for people to come and pick you up. And there are different things. They have like medical scanners, so you can come up as a medic and you can scan and see what they're wrong with. You can administer drugs to them to try and stabilize them and save their lives. And then depending on how bad the trauma is in the different limbs, they have to go to various medical facilities. So if it's just a light, like if it's the lowest level of trauma you have, you can just have basically like a med bay on a ship that will be able to take care of it. But if you have more severe traumas, you might have to go to a physical hospital somewhere that's going to be able to take care of those traumas for you. So a lot of medical gameplay, I could definitely see like rescuing services becoming a thing, where you go out, you find people who are stranded because, I don't know, fell down a hole, and your job is now to try and rescue them out of that cave where they dropped down or something like that. Get them out to a ship, get them patched up, get them to a hospital before they die completely. So you can see with this new system how death will become a less frequent occurrence because you're just going to be unconscious until someone comes and picks you up. They still do have, like, you can die in the field. I mean, if you sit in the chair of a ship that's exploding around you, you're most likely going to get vaporized. Or if somebody shoots a rocket at your face, there's probably not going to be that much body left to save. So they still have these... you're going to 100% you're dead. You don't just go unconscious, you're gone moments. And of course, death of a spaceman is not coming in 3.15 as far as I know. They're going to have later, so we don't have the permadeath situation yet. But it just means that yes, instant death can happen, but there's going to be a more chance that you can be saved by either friends or rescue service somewhere around the universe. Finally, I just need to talk about live streams. First of all, the live stream tomorrow, we're going to be playing Elite Dangerous, and I'll most likely be looking at some suit upgrades. Maybe if we have the time, also go out and we can find some stuff to do more weapon upgrades, and basically just going to be working on building a suit and building my weapons up. I'm going to be focusing on my Maverick suit, so we have a good scavenging suit that we can use to go and collect more materials for whatever next suit's going to be. Most likely it's going to be a Dominator. It's going to be my guess, but we'll see. That's going to be tomorrow. For the last couple of weeks, or the last many weeks now, it's kind of become a small tradition that I do live streams on Fridays where we play Star Citizen. Unfortunately, that won't happen this week, as I will be going away for the weekend with my wife, so I won't be home on Friday. And the rest of the week is also very busy, so I won't have time to do 2 live streams this week. So therefore, there will only be the one this week. But who knows? Maybe next week I will be able to squeeze in a second live stream as well, so we can go and have some fun in Star Citizen. But the live stream tomorrow is, of course, as always, going to be both on YouTube and on Twitch at 7 o'clock UTC. That's it for this week. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in space.